All right, we've got our recording in progress. Okay, so Bootstrap's the basics. We're going to be using Visual Studio Code today because it has a ton of amazing coding features, shortcuts, just the general like layout of it is fantastic. I remember I started with something else when I was in computer studies, and we found out Visual Studio Code shortly after that, and now I think it's become the main one that we use when we do coding. So we've got some makerspace rules, which are try to be kind, interrupt me if I'm going too fast. So if I've skipped something too quickly or copied and pasted something too soon, let me know in the chat or feel free to interrupt me with your microphone. Seriously though, interrupt me, I do not mind. Use the chat for questions if you can, if you have any questions for other students. We can also do something where if a student is having trouble with something, we can do some sharing of screen and we can all try to figure out what the problem is. That's always been really fun. Our goals for today is to learn something new, have fun, maybe meet some new people. If we were doing this on campus, we would definitely be meeting new people in person. Maybe you see a couple of your friends here. So, say hi to everyone. Maybe you have some classes in common. So before we start, make sure that we prepare these. Have your IDE ready. I will be using Visual Studio Code and have the packages downloaded. So the packages have been dropped into the chat there. I can copy that again. And I'll just put it in there again, just in case we've had a couple extra students pop in recently. So we'll put the link in again. You will notice that this is cat themed because I do like cats. That would be a good representation of how my cat likes to try to sit on things. I said try. All right, so first we're going to start by installing some really great extensions to our Visual Studio Code so that our Visual Studio Code does more work for us and us have to do less work. So we're going to open our Visual Studio Code here. For my button, so we're going to minimize this. So I'm going to show you how I open up my code files. So as you can see, I have my own hard copy here of our files that we're going to be recreating. And then I have your student files and I have my notes. So we're going to click on the files that you downloaded. So you'll have this. If you installed Visual Studio Code the right way and the best way, you will have this option right here that says open with code. That is the easiest way to open any folders and in their entirety. So if we open with code on that, you'll see this is our main start page. And as you can see, we've got our CSS files, we've got some image files, we've got some JS files, which are just the older files from, I don't think we even need that file because I changed those to being inside of our HTML. So all of those files are now down here. And something that Bootstrap has done in 4.5 and higher is make it one singular script file as opposed to several of them. This if we were using Font Awesome, but this time we're going to use our own very cool Bootstrap icons. You'll notice that all my information is just trailing off the page there. So if I use Alt-Z, I can view all my code in one section as opposed to it trailing off. So that first command that we're going to learn today is Alt-Z to get all of our information on one page. We're going to go ahead and install those extensions. Your extensions panel is going to be to the left. It looks like 3 boxes with a 4th box being piled in. And I'm just going to scroll over this way. You'll see that the things that I have looked for the most are live server, live share, and prettier code formatter. Prettier code formatter is fantastic. It is above what the regular code formatter does for you in in Visual Studio Code. It has a few extra things. You'll notice that it has a, oh, what is this now? It's almost a 4-star rating, which is pretty good for rated as ratings go. And it also has like millions of like tons of downloads. Those are the two things that you should be looking for if you're going to be downloading any sort of extension to your Visual Studio Code, is how many people have downloaded it and what is the star rating of it. And as you can see here, I believe, oh, maybe somebody took it over. So it teaches you how to install it in different ways. And it looks like in the details, which is really exciting, somebody has picked up keeping it up to date, which is neat. So there we go. We've got prettier code formatter. So what you're going to do is you're going to click that install button that's right here and install that to your Visual Studio Code. The second one that we're going to be doing today is called Live Server. Live Server is going to save you, let's say, 10 seconds every single time you go to open a HTML page from your Visual Studio Code, because you can automatically share it and pop it up. And then once it's popped up, it'll automatically update every time you save. So you can see your changes happen in live format. So that's really cool. And as you can see, it's almost a 5-star rating. It's got a whole ton of downloads, and it's really popular. So I would suggest getting it. It's really cool. I will be using it today. All right. Does everyone have those downloaded? If not, and you don't feel comfortable downloading them, that's okay. Cool. Awesome. Cool, cool, cool. I see we got a yes in the chat. That is all I need to continue forward. We're going to jump back to our files here. All right, so Bootstrap Basics, there's downloading. You can download the Bootstrap information, but you do not have to download it. You can use it directly through I'll show you in the CSS and the other things that it automatically sort of talks to the server, so you don't have to download it. So we'll hit that Get Started tab. I'll show you that in a minute. We're going to learn the lingo of the Bootstrap. We're going to look at how to find what we want in Bootstrap. We're going to be using Bootstrap links, making sure that they're in the right order, because there is an order that they have to fall in order for them to not be overridden and basically make your page look very junky. Here's a wireframing. Wireframing our first project. So our first project is not actually going to look like this. It's going to look a little bit different. But this is an idea of how we would wireframe out a project just using like Paint. You can also wireframe your project out just on a piece of paper and like draw out where you think things should be. It doesn't have to be super technical. But this is how we're going to sort of do it. We are going to have a navigation. We're still going to have a header, only we're going to use a carousel header. And then we're going to have a main section and a few card features down at the bottom. So it's going to be quite similar, except we're adding a footer to ours instead of ending at the features. So stuff we're going to put in this today. We are going to be the masters of copy and paste. We are going to find a nav bar. We're going to find some buttons. We're going to find a carousel, which is one of those things where the images slide by. We're going to figure out how to control a carousel and tell it to calm down and slow down, and also turn it off from being on a cell phone, because it doesn't work very well on a cell phone. And then we're also going to be adding some cards. And lucky for us, they have built a whole bunch of new ways for us to use the carousel and cards, including the carousel automatically coming so that it turns off for smaller phones, and also cards, which now come in card groups, which is exciting because then we can make a whole section almost instantaneously. So let's try it out. All right, so we've got our code. So if you open your student files, and if you're having trouble opening your student files, let me just minimize these things. So if you have Visual Studio Code open just like this, I would tell you to go to Open Folder. And then my desktop is very messy, but I have my files here. So I'd be able to pick this folder and select that folder to open it. We already have that open here. So here is our basic HTML layout. It has a few things that I've added in for Bootstrap. I know this says Bootstrap 4.5 in my notes, but it is 5.0 or 5.1. And as you can see, the last time that I updated this was 5.0.2. And now we're at 5.1. So I checked and there aren't too many differences, like major differences that they've made. So this is a link that you copy directly from the web page. So if you go to the home page, this is your home page, and you just go to Get Started. So once we click Get Started, we have a couple things, introductions, download, contents. Here is where we find that CSS and our JavaScript and POP and jQuery. All of those are in this one bubble, in this one bundle. And that bundle, our CSS bundle, is at the top of the page. Then we have a link to our personal CSS. So that's going to be the CSS that we code ourselves on top of the Bootstrap to make it look not as cookie cutter. I've added in here some Google fonts. You can choose whichever Google font you like. This was the font that I chose for the event. It just looks nice. And then the final one, which is that Bootstrap icons, which I had showed you earlier. So that goes in the final place there. You'll see that I have sort of wireframed out how we're going to put this together. We're going to have a top bar. We're going to have some navigation. We're going to have our image carousel. We've got a main heading page end. We're going to have a 3-column section, which is where we're going to have our cards. We're going to learn how to put in a fixed background image, which is a little complicated sometimes and can be very annoying. And then a 2-column section, and we're going to finish off with a footer. As you can see here, I do have a thing that notes like that this is my script source files. So anything that would be script worthy, so jQuery, JavaScript, and I forget, POP something, I can't remember what it's called, but that all goes down at the bottom here. I've also added this down here where the font awesome is, which I believe is wrong, but if I cut it out now, I'm afraid everything will break. So we'll leave it as it is. But yeah, and then we have some image files over here. You'll see that I have images labeled. We've got the planet, we've got some logos in here. And then we also have a second separate area for cards, which you will understand more about when we get to the card section. And then we have our CSS, which is just our CSS style sheet. And so far, all that's in here, oh my God, do you guys have all the CSS? Oh no, I'm sorry, you have all the CSS. I guess we'll talk about the CSS then while we're putting it in there. Sorry, that's all supposed to be blank. But since it's in there, all right, so let's start off with that top bar. As you can see, we have a top bar header here in our CSS as well. It's already colored for us, which is very lucky. I'm just opening up my other files that I have here. Awesome. All right, so we are going to start with a line of code that doesn't seem like it's going to make sense until we hit enter. So we are going to say dot top bar. So a dot in this in CSS, as always, is going to be creating a class. So we're going to create a class of top bar. And inside of that, we are going to put a container, so another class of container. And you'll start noticing once we start getting into this that I'm going to be saying things over and over again, like call or row or container. And then we'll start adding in extra numbers and letters in there as well. All right. And inside of that, we are going to give another class of column 12. So COL is for column. We'll look that up in our Bootstrap a little bit later. And then I'm going to put dot text dash end, which is going to place our text at the end inside with padding, and we need an A tag. So you'll notice that this little blue bar pops up that says emit abbreviation. We're going to click enter. And as soon as we click enter, we're going to have a whole bunch of divs created for us. So if you didn't get that, I'll copy this line of code into the chat. So we have a class of top bar, a class of container, a column with the width of 12, so the whole width of the page, with text end. And then we're going to have some information in here. I'm just going to use one of my favorite buttons that, since we downloaded our live server, will work really well. There's a little button that'll pop up that says go live. We'll click that. It's going to start, and you should be able to see your top bar at the top. That blue bar at the top is our top bar because we've already done the, I'm just going to try and move this over here. We've already done the CSS for this, so it should pop up immediately as soon as you hit enter on that. I'm just going to close this side, and I'm going to make this a little bit smaller so that we can see both screens at once. So then we get to see our live updates happening as we go. All right. So we're going to find our P tag and look at our href. Inside of there, since it's waiting for us to put something in there, what we're going to do is we're going to put a telephone phone number in there, but we're going to do it so that the internet knows that there's a telephone there. So we're going to tell it, literally tell it, to add this phone number. And this phone number is just going to be a random phone number. So 1-888-555-5555. So if somebody clicked on that phone number, it would pop up and send you directly. So if you're on your cell phone, you click that, it'll do a phone call for you. And then we want to let people know where to click. Like there should be a phone number there so that they can actually physically see it, so that they can click on it. So we can say, contact us. This is where we want to actually put in our editing for what a phone number actually looks like. So once we hit save, you'll see that it has popped up on our Bootstrap page, and it should be popped up right at the end, the text end here. So if we got rid of text end, you'll see that it moves to the left side, but I want it to be presenting on the right side. So I've added text end into that, and it does move it. So there's text right, text end, text left, text end, and text center that we will be playing with a little bit later on. Awesome. So we have a top bar. That's really exciting. So it's just a top bar up there. This is a very basic website. So if somebody really wanted to get in touch with me, that bar would be at the top the whole time, and they'd be able to click on that and be like, yep, there's your phone number. Instead of having it at the very end of the website, which we'll also be putting that in there at the bottom, but we're going to use lorem ipsum instead. So we have ended our top bar. Very exciting. Now we're going to put in some navigation. And we can just talk about the styling for a second. So this is the font that I chose from Google Fonts. Hide the overflow, basic background color. It's not important. We've got our top bar, calling on the actual top bar class itself and saying, hey, I want you to be this color. And as you can see there, we can float over top of the color and choose whatever color we like. So if you don't like the color I chose, feel free to change it. That's another great thing about Visual Studio Code is that hover and color choice. Then we're giving it a height and some padding around it. And here is where we're doing the color of the text. And then I've also chosen text decoration none, because if we had have left text decoration in there, it would do that underscored like classic hyperlink thing. And we want our website to look nice. We don't need to know it's a hyperlink. Somebody can click on that. All right. So let's find some navigation. So we're going to go right here. I'm going to copy and paste so that everybody can find this. So we're going to get Bootstrap docs 5.1 components, and we are going to find our nav bar. So if we look at our introduction page here, we'll notice that there's a couple different things down the side. We've got customize, layout, content, forms. So we look at layout, it gives us grids, containers, columns, other different utilities, the CSS grid. We've got some content here, images, tables, figures. So if you're trying to figure out any of those things in Bootstrap, the amount of documentation that it has and very easily explains, it's all here for you. So we're going to skip right down to components, and you'll see that there's tons of components that we can add, and we'll just scroll down here until we find our nav bar. So we don't want navs and tabs, we want nav bar. All right, so we're going to scroll around our nav bar, and we're going to choose a nav bar to pick. So if I look at if I open this one, if I go live with this one, we'll actually see what we're going to build. So we're going to build this. So we've got, as you can see, it's just labels. It's not as beautiful as it could be. We've got a carousel here. We're going to have our nav bar right here. As you can see, it's got a hamburger menu for information. It's got some drop downs for donating. If we expand that, the hamburger menu disappears and we end up with a home, events, more. And I like this, donate, volunteer, contact. So we're going to look for this nav bar that has our drop down menu. So we can, as you scroll, you'll see that they show different ways for the nav bar to appear. See, here's one with a nav bar with a logo. We're going to add a logo into ours. Here's some pricing features. This little section is disabled, so that's not the right one. Here it is. So this is where our copy and pasting skills are going to come into hand, like really strongly. We are going to look over and we're going to find this little copy to clipboard corner, and we're going to click it. Done. Most of our code is written for us. All that we have to do is make it look pretty. So we're going to pop over here, and in that navigation section in your HTML, we're going to paste. We're going to save it. And you'll see once we've saved it, our nav bar shows up. You're going to notice that the nav bar has some detail to it, and that's because our styles for our navigation are already done for us, which includes the font size, the letter spacing. I've given it a box shadow. You don't have to give it a box shadow, but it does help it stand out against the carousel that we're going to put in. But currently, it just says nav bar. So we're going to go to the top of our nav bar information. And we're going to look for our A class right here. This is where it says nav bar. And this is where we're going to want to put in our image. So navbar brand, href, right after the href. In between the section for the A class at the end, we're going to add yeah, it should be working. Yeah, so if you make spaces in between, it'll pop up and it'll give you the emit abbreviation and you hit enter and it gives you your image tag finished with the source in it. We are going to look for, we'll go back over here and we'll see that our images are in the image folder. So we will put image. And as you can see, it starts auto-completing. That's another awesome thing that Bootstrap does, is that it will auto-complete things. We are going to use Logo Mine Dark. And it'll automatically be put in there. So when we hit, shrink this image more. When we hit save, our logo pops up automatically. Now, if we didn't have this in here, that's what we would see first. So if we had no CSS in, our logo would show up as big as the PNG is, which is fairly large, and it would just pop up right there. So as soon as that CSS that we've did, so we've told the navbar specifically the image that we want it to be at 3 rem, so like much smaller. And then we've given it a font size. So the navbar font size, the actual writing here will change. And then letter spacing as well. And we know that all those things change once we do this. So what we don't need now is for this to say navbar. Because it doesn't need to, we could put that as home or something, but we don't need anything in there. So we have our beautiful logo, we have our home, features, pricings, drop-down link. So what we can do is we can move along down the nav bar and you'll see anything that on my Visual Studio Code is white is the text that is in these boxes here. So the features, the pricing. So if we changed pricing to hello and saved that, it would change it automatically. And then inside of our drop-down link, this is where you can get a little more exciting. Let's say you have a lot of things that you need to be in your drop link. We can just say, okay, sure. Since this is an unordered list, I'll put in this many, save that, click the drop-down link, and they'll all appear. Perhaps we only have 2 things that we want in there. We can change that as well. And as that changes, as you can see, there's only 2 things in here. So following the rules of copy paste, you can just add more or take less. You can also look into the area up here. This area right here. So this is an unordered list. If we click on this area here, it should show us the bottom of the unordered list, which is right there, right here. And inside of that, each of our items are here. So perhaps we wanted more than 3 or less than 3. You could either cut them or copy and paste more in there so that you could have multiple headers. Perhaps your website is going to be, there's a header for everything. But that is how you would add more. So we've managed to do a top bar, add a navigation link, and now we scroll down and our next thing is going to be the image carousel, which is going to be this right here. So we're going to go back to our Bootstrap and we're going to go down to the carousel. So we're going to look in our components and find carousel. I'll copy and paste that into the chat just so everybody can get there. So as you can see, how Carousel works. Carousel is a slideshow for cycling through a series of content built with CSS, 3D transforms, and a bit of JavaScript. So it's using a little bit of everything in there. It works with a series of images, text, or custom markups. It also includes support for previous and next controls. So you can choose to add those in, or you can choose to not have them. So I'll scroll down this way. So as you can see, this one doesn't have the ability to go forward or backwards. And you can see that the code is quite short for that. It gives you a space where we're gonna add our images in. It stops it from going to a certain width. And this is basically what stops it from going on a cell phone, from scrolling on a cell phone. This is it with controls. So it gives you those little arrow buttons. Then it gives you controls with also a couple tabs at the bottom that shows you which slide you are on, and you can navigate to said slide. And as you can see, the code is getting larger and larger as we go. So you can do it with captions. You can do a crossfade. The crossfade is really nice. We're actually going to add in the fade into ours. Individual intervals, double touch swiping. So if you're on a device, you can type through, flash through stuff. They've got a dark variant, so white on dark sort of idea. The one that we're going to look for is the one that has those these second slide labels this area here. So we're looking for with captions. Look for with captions. And again, we're going to do the best thing we can do, which is copy and paste. So we're going to copy that. And then we're going to dump that right into our image carousel settings and paste it. So if we click up here and we go over here and we hit save, as you can see, the text is showing up. There's a shadow there, a drop shadow, and you can see that they are changing. But you notice that it's got the little image with the dot. So we just scroll up here to the top. I'm going to start at the top. So it's got some buttons in there. The buttons are those previous and next. Then we've got the carousel, sorry, all the highlighted things are popping up. We've got the carousel inner. So that's going to be the inside of the carousel. So where we keep our photos and where we keep our text. As you can see right here, we've got the image source, and we've also got the alt text. So alt text is photo of Steph. Obviously, you would make that a lot more clear, but as we look over here, there's photo of stuff. So if we were trying to make our website as ARIA based as we can, so that people with screen readers and that sort of thing can know what they're looking at, that's the way to do it. All right, but what we're going to do is we're going to learn something that you may already know, which is the alt click. We are going to fill out all three of our images at the same time. So we are going to put our first cursor at the image source on the first one and hold down Alt. All right. Then we are going to Alt click on the second one. As you can see, I now have two cursors going. And then Alt click the third one. So now I have three cursors going. I'm going to backspace. I know where our image files are. They're in here. And as you can see, we have 1, 2, and 3. So I'm just going to pick one for all of them. And then I'm going to make that change to 2 and to 3 and save that. And ta-da, our images have popped up. All right. Let me just move this out of my way so I can see my code. Okay, so we are going to add some classes to our image carousel so that we can make a few changes. So we're going to scroll up here and we're going to find this area where it says carousel inner. So below our carousel example captions, we're going to come down to here where it says class carousel inner. Below this is where we're going to add in the interval. So I'm just going to type in because you might have noticed that the carousel is going really, really quickly. So we are going to carousel items active. And in this section here, we are going to say data dash BS dash interval. So this is Bootstrap speak right now. And we're going to say equals, and let's just say 5,000. So as you've noticed, our carousel is now going at a slower rate, which is a lot better for the people who are going to be on our website. They don't want to see, you know, maybe if they're looking at one slide, they won't want to see it happening over and over and over again really quickly. So you can add that interval to it. And you can add it to each one. That should be fine. Okay. All right. So we are going to jump down to, because we are going to add something to, as you can see on this slide here, I have like some green. Obviously this is, I've done it specifically so that it pops. It's not necessarily the nicest to look at, but it does pop so we know what we're doing. So we're going to add that. All right. Before we do that, we're going to come up here, and instead of it sliding, we're going to find our ID of carousel example captions. And then we come down to here where we have carousel slide. We're going to add in carousel fade dash fade. So that's going to make it so that when our carousel switches from one page to the next page, it's fading into each other as opposed to flying by. It just looks a little nicer and it's a little less distracting for our viewers. All right, so we're going to come down here and we're going to look at our first image and information div. So we are going to wrap the H5 and P tag in a div. And the way that we're going to do that is we're going to use Control-Shift-P. We are going to omit wrap abbreviation, and I'm going to wrap it with a div. So see how it automatically captures the thing that I want, adds a div around the outside of it. Oops. I probably should have hit enter when I did that. Control-Shift-P, div, enter. Okay, so now we have our div. On that div, we are going to give it a class of myBG. Now, as soon as I do this, the first slide should automatically pick up the CSS that's already in our CSS files and load it. So as you can see, that did happen. If we go to our carousel information here, we'll see that we've given it, it has a box shadow. I've told the carousel how tall it can be. So if you want your carousel bigger or if you want it smaller, you can change that 500 pixels to whatever you like. So perhaps it's just going to be logos of companies flashing by. Maybe you make logos for people. We're going to do some carousel content, which is positioning where we want the information to sit. How much the percent is whereabouts on the tile it's going to sit. So I've put it at 45%. You can choose 50%. You can choose, let's say if we did 80% and hit S, save on that. So as you can see, it's disappeared. So that's not right. Maybe 60%, save that. Oh, it's still a little low. All right, so I think that 45% was a good choice because we will be making some more changes. As I've done right here, you'll see that I've given it a color of green, whichever green you like. And I've also messed with the transparency, which is over on the side here. Given the text a color of white, told it, given it a border radius. And then you'll see that I have carousel caption for H2. If we look at our index, we have H5s. So if we change that to an H2 and this to an H2 and save that, we get a much bigger label on that. So if we wanted each of those slides to look the same and follow that formatting, we would Control-Shift-P, wrap it in a div. I'm just going to copy and paste this class. So this is where we come into really thinking about the Bootstrap styling and styling the Bootstrap. So we're using our custom CSS to style Bootstrap so it doesn't look so cookie cutter. All right, so we've got that done. We can do it to this one down here as well. Awesome. And then again, class of my BG, save that, and it'll give it to the same thing. And of course, if we change these to H2s and save it, they will change the size and have the formatting that we have written in our CSS. So every single slide will look the same. Let's add some buttons. I don't have to type out a button. I can come here to my components. I look at my buttons. I'll copy and paste that into the chat. And as you can see, we have a bunch of custom, like pre-made buttons that, lucky for me, the info button actually suits my color type. So I'm actually going to use that. And I'm just going to copy and paste that button. I'm going to take that button and I'm going to place it into my first slide. All right. So I'm going to just paste that button in between my H2 and my P tag. And I'm going to paste it twice. And when I save that, and we come in here, as you can see, we have two little info buttons. In our CSS, we have the carousel caption information, and everything has some rems. And then we also have the border radius, and it's positioned in the absolute position. So we definitely want it to stay where it is. Nothing will move it. Not moving, not shrinking, not growing, not shrinking. It'll stay where it is. All right. Let's jump into our main page and 3-column area.
Excuse me, Virginia.
So that's going to be where we're hitting right here, which is our main page heading.
Hello.
So if we look on our main one. Our main page heading is this section right here. So we're going to put this little blue line in. We're going to put some text in and some space. Nothing too big. All right, we're going to start with that fancy dot .col. So we're adding a column
in the chat
with the width of 12 with a class of text center. And we are going to be putting in this MT-5. So margin top. So we're going to add some margin to it. And once we hit enter on that, I can totally paste the button in the chat. Yeah, for sure. So there's our button. And I'll copy and paste this little main page heading in there as well. Great, so we've got the 5 and we'll hit enter. So this just gives us a little section to work in where we're going to add some stuff. So I'm going to add an H1. You'll notice that I'm using a lot of the shortcuts from Visual Studio Code. And we're going to give this class and we're going to say PT-4. So that is padding top. So margin top or padding top. So using the PT and the MT will give you different amounts, and it'll give you different amounts. Hold on, we can see here. So we got a nice pretty looking thing, and my formatting doesn't look very good right now. So I can just right click and format document. Mine automatically is set to using prettier, but if yours is not, you can use this format document with, and you can choose between prettier code formatter, which is my default, or the HTML language features, but I choose prettier code formatter. Okay, so I'm going to show you if this works. It does not work. So I'm going to show you this little, this is for our line for display properties. So this is going to tell us how things work. We're going to get down to the examples here, where we start using things like P-2, D/inline, how to hide elements. So it'll show you how to hide certain things. So we did already use D block, and we've also used, so we're going to hear D block small none. I'm just looking for, they have moved it. That's good. That's good. Okay, we are going to use that because we are going to create another div inside of here. I remember when I first started coding and everyone was like, divs are the bane of your existence. Like, you'll never be able to keep track of your divs. That is totally true unless you give every single div you work with a class. So I don't want you to see you out there using divs nonchalantly because you can make all these extra little cubby holes. The best thing to do is add a class for everything. And our class for this one is going to be quite long, so I'm going to copy and paste it into the chat. The shortcut to use prettier, it should just be to like your format document. So Shift Alt F. When you go to format document with it'll show you which one is your default. So your default's probably going to be the HTML language features. If you go to configure default formatter, you can choose which one you want. and then it'll save it for like for future endeavors. So I just added a class. So this class, oops. Missed something. There should be, what's missing from that line of text that I just sent you is the quotes, the final quotes on that. So when I had that issue where everything was red, it's because I didn't have this quotation mark in there. This is just for prettiness. So when I hit save on that, it's literally just that line. That's all it is, minus this right here. So the next thing we're going to do below that div, I believe, yeah, will be to add a p tag. And this is going to be a fun one for you guys to learn. If you do not have text to put into a bubble and you don't want to just sit there clamoring across your keyboard, or you want to show somebody a website of a wireframe, using lorem amount will give us, I did lorem 10, so it gave me 10 words of lorem ipsum. And if I save that, you'll see that it pops up just on the base there, which is pretty cool. Okay, so that's our main page heading. It looks pretty much the same, except, a little bit different with the words. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to add these cards in here into our three column section. How are we going to do that, you ask? By copying and pasting. We're going to click on our card section. And we're going to start looking through the cards and figuring out which cards we want to use. They'll have ones with images, ones cards and buttons. This is exactly what we're looking for, but I'm sure we can find one a little further down that actually has it into a group already. So this is where we start getting into groups. They used to be called card decks, like a card deck, like a shuffling cards. They have changed that between 4.1 and 5.1. So this is a very funny one. They call this the kitchen sink. It gives you a card title, it gives you an image, it gives you a couple items, it gives you a couple links. So perhaps you're doing you're putting this as a portfolio website. So you have an image cap of the website, what it looks like, a brief explanation, perhaps, some information about, maybe what you scored on it or something like that. They come in all different shapes and sizes, but we're going to keep on scrolling down. And this is where we start getting into our little grid markups, which is really exciting. You can get different sizes. And here's where we get into our 3 column and 3 row groups. So this is rows and columns. Got some navigation cards, which is exciting. This is this card looks a little different. So it's got an image on the top, some cards on the bottom. Keep going, keep going. They've got horizontal cards, which are pretty cool. So you could do a nice image and text about your stuff. We've got some colored things, just like the buttons. We've got some with different borders on them. Scrolling down a lot. I'm really hoping they haven't moved. There we go. Card groups. That's what we're looking for. So we're going to scroll all the way down to card groups, and we're going to look for, this one looks good. It's got the images along the top. It's got the card titles. Let's see if that fits what we have. These ones have buttons. Let's see if there's one with buttons on it. There isn't. So I guess we'll have to add our own buttons in. And there's things that you can add which have this little thing at the bottom that tells your user when it was last updated. This one has it down at the bottom, and this one has it inside of the actual text. I'm going to use that one. You can feel free to use the other one. And I'm going to go ahead and just copy and paste that directly in. And what you'll see when I hit save here, because we already have styling done in our CSS, is that once we hit save, our card tiles will pop up. But we are going to have to add some custom styling in order to get these to look the way we want them to. The first thing we'll do is add that our image sources into it. So you'll see here card group, and we immediately jump into the cards, and it gives you our image sources and our alt text. So we're going to do that alt clicking. So click, get your cursor where you want it. And then for the next one, alt click. For the next one, alt click. This is where we're going to go into our image file. And we're going to go into the card section. I think it's cards. I'm just going to open this up. So it is called cards. And then it is just 1, 2, and 3. Cards, and that's slash, and then it'll pop up with our image 1, cards slash 2, image 2, cards slash 3, image 3. We'll save that, and there are our cards. As you can see, it shows up pretty nicely. There's a few things that I did in this one that make it different, which is I've added padding to different areas in order to give them a little bit more separation. I find it aesthetically pleasing. You can leave them all bunched together like this. All right, so we will add the padding, which we're going to use PX and PB. So padding on the left and X will be left and right side, and PB will give us padding on the bottom. And we're going to give that first one, we're going to go all the way up to card group. And that's where we're going to add our first class of PX-5 and PB-5 and save that. So it's given padding to the sides of it. So that's where we're getting padding on the sides there. Then we're going to go for each individual card. We are going to give it a little bit more padding as well. So we're going to say PX-2 and padding top dash, let's see here, 2. So when we save that, as you can see, it's changed on the first card, but not on the other 2 cards because you are editing them each individually. So all we're going to do is we're going to do what we do best with Bootstrap. We're going to copy and we're going to paste. We're going to paste it right under that div class of card. We're going to do the same for the third one. And then all of our images will be shrunken just a little bit to give it a little bit of padding in between each image. I like that. If you don't like that, you don't have to do it. These guys have buttons. So we can go back to here, grab our buttons. I'm going to go with the info button again. You can also scroll down, and the info buttons that I put in here are the ones that have hover on them. So I'm going to use this handy dandy hover info button. I'll paste that in the chat as well. And I'm going to add that to each of my buttons just below the P tag. All your cards are displaying vertically. Did you copy and paste the correct one? That is the question. If you are squishing it like this, they should stick together, except for when you get to the smallest. This is how it would be on a cell phone. This is what it would look like. Your cards would stack automatically. But if you're out a little bit further, they should be like this. Sure. All right, we're going to do a screen share so we can see what we have done differently. Ooh, interesting. Look at that. All right, let's go to your Bootstrap page. Which one did you copy and paste? Because there is one that stacks them vertically.
Can you see the Bootstrap?
Yep.
Yeah, this is the one which I got pasted. Kitchen sink.
Weird. All right, let's go to the Bootstrap website and see if we can't copy and paste the, I think you probably grabbed the one that does the vertical drop down. Yeah, so if you scroll up on this is the one that is the stacking ones. So we want to scroll down. Keep going. I think it's like almost at the bottom. So these are the stacking cards. And then right about here.
Oh, this is the one, horizontal.
A little bit further down. It's below all the colors and fun stuff. It's where we get to card grouping. There we go. That one right there. So if you change your image sources, that should be the correct one. See how it's a little bit different? Slash cards. Slash IMG. Yeah, slash one. Oh, it should be auto finishing, but sometimes it doesn't. And then just save that and it should be different when you go back to your Bootstrap page.
Yeah, it's different.
It's different?
Yeah.
Awesome. It's all about the right
Can you see it?
There we go. Perfect. All right, I'll share my screen and I'll show you where I made those changes so that it gives you the padding.
Okay.
Awesome. So the area that we added padding is that very top row right here. So we added the PBPX.
I can't see your screen.
Oh, I haven't hit share yet.
You thought you're sharing.
I was looking at it. I was like, yeah, I just have to hit share. All right, here we go. So we added that into the top there and then to each of the cards. So each class of card, we added this guy. And that'll give you the spacing in between the cards. Awesome. Let's jump into the tricky bit, which is going to be having that fixed background image. All right.
Could you please just hold for a while? What does that PX mean? PT means.
Okay. So the PX, the P stands for padding. So that's one of the Bootstrap words. So the P is for padding. The X refers to the left and the right. So the X axis of things. If you use the letter Y, you'd be on the Y axis of things. So the top and the bottom. So if you wanted to add padding to the top and bottom of something, you would use PY. If you want to add it to the left and the right, you would use PX. when it comes to using just like PB, that would be padding bottom. So that's the bottom of it. So that's specifically referring to the top or the bottom with PT or PB.
Okay, thanks.
Used to be under display properties. That's not right. That's not right at all. Right, that's what those guys mean. All right, let's jump into this sort of oddly sectioned area with our space bar, nav bar first. And we're gonna like add in these little nav bar sections that just add nice little additions to our thing. So we are going to start with a div. Din. I'm thinking of food. Div, we're going to add that class to that. And our class is going to be navbar. We're going to type in bg-info. So BG is background and info is the color that I'm choosing. So if I chose, if we look at our buttons again, and we look at the different colors that they have, where they have danger, success, secondary, that's where we're going to use the word info. See how it says button info. So I'm going to use background info. And I'm going to say sticky dash top. So we're going to stick it to the top. And when we hit save, you won't even notice it's there. It's this little blue bar right down at the very bottom of your screen. We're going to add basically a couple bars that are going to go and wrap around our fixed image. So we're going to start our fixed image here. And we're going to use that really fancy dot fixed dash background. Inside of that, I want a fixed dash wrap. So I want it to be the whole screen. And then inside of that, I just want something that is fixed. So we're really, really making sure that the stuff is going to be fixed. Right. And you'll see when we hit save on that, our picture of space will already appear. That is only because we have our fixed image information in our styles.css. If you check it out, you'll notice that we have a fixed background image. I've already chosen, it's inside of the files, in the image, and it's called planet.jpg. This right here, these dots and slashes are going to be where you have the most trouble with getting your fixed image to stay, because sometimes it'll be 1 dot, sometimes it'll be 2 dots, sometimes it'll be 3 dots, depending on how many things it needs to go through to get to that image. So sometimes you have to play around with it. I found that I did a tutorial on this kind of thing, and the person who did theirs, they only needed 1. And when I was doing mine and was doing some research on it, I ended up needing to have 2 dots in order for mine to show up. And then I've given the fixed background some padding of 10 rem. 10 rems, yum. All right, so below our fixed image, this is where things get complicated in my text. This low fixed background. This is where we're going to add some text on top of our fixed background. So dot row dot text dash light. So this is telling the text, instead of using our CSS to style the text, we're using inline styling with Bootstrap and just telling it it's going to be light and giving it a padding PY-5. So padding up and down -Y, and we'll hit enter on that. I can copy and paste that into the chat too. All right, so now that we have that div, inside of that div, we are going to put yet another div. And that div, the div that we're going to put in here is going to give us, actually, we can do this a lot easier. Instead of doing that, we can say div dot call dash 12 dot text dash center. Instead of typing it all out, we can use that to give us our div with our classes automatically put in there. And then the next thing is just adding whatever we want to show up here. So we can add an H1, giving some room 4. Cool. And I'm going to add an H3 in there. Room 8. All right, so if we hit save on that, there is our text popping up at the bottom across the screen. So that's how you add text on top of a fixed background. And then in our original over here, we do have some buttons in there. Yeah, so if you type lorem, it's going to give you a full paragraph. If you type lorem with a number beside it, so lorem 4 or lorem 7, it's going to give you exactly 4 words or 7 words of lorem ipsum instead of giving you an entire paragraph.
Thank you.
And no spaces in between. This is outer space Earth. We are small. Awesome. All right, so I'm going to, below my H3, I'm going to add some buttons. I'll just copy and paste these buttons right into the chat here, because we're going to be copy and pasting them anyways. These ones are just already styled. And we save that. We've got our fancy buttons down. All right, and then the final thing that we're going to do, which is this area right here where it's like space bar, second nav bar, we're going to copy and paste as we do with Bootstrap, that nav bar at the top, and we're just going to place it where it says spacer nav bar second. And then as you can see at the very bottom, it's got one at the top and it's got one at the bottom. All the color schemes match up because it's Bootstrap and everything matches. All right, our next area is this handy dandy area right here, which gets a little tricky sometimes because when you grow it to the side, you want it to be nice like that. And then when it shrinks, you want it to stack on top of each other. So that style is already, oh no, it's not. It's not even in there. Excellent. We can just type all this out. I'm so excited. So in our start 2 column section, we are going to put a container in. A container is a Bootstrap word. Bootstrap knows what container is. Container is rows and columns. It knows that it is a specific thing. It can either be a regular container or it could be a container fluid. So the fluid container is going to ebb and flow with the shrinking and growing of the size of the screen. Okay, so let's build that container. Dot container. Dot my, so margin, top and bottom of 5. And dot row, so we're making sure it has a row to go on. And we're going to give that some padding as well. All of these padding numbers that I'm giving you, you can choose a 2, a 5, a 12. You can choose between, I believe, 1 to 12, how much space you want that to be. I chose these because these ones I thought they looked nice. We'll save that. We'll come back over here. So you can already see that I've saved it and it's showing that there's space down here now. So it knows that there's padding. So it knows about the padding that's going to be surrounding this stuff. So we'll go into this next one. I just want to make sure I put it in the right spot. Inside this div, the row div, we are going to add a column. So we're going to make sure that we are going rows and columns and giving it spaces. So dot col dash LG dash 4. So the call dash LG dash 4 is going to leave you with 8 columns less left for the image to sit in. So if we look at this right here, just grow this. This is taking up 4 of the 12 spaces that exist in Bootstrap. So when it's grown, it stays, and when it shrinks, it shrinks down to the correct sizes there. But basically what we're doing when we say like LG4 is we're telling it, okay, in this column, out of the 12 columns, I want you to take up 4 amount of space for this text. And we're going to say dot margin top and bottom dash 4 dash LG dash UTO dash auto. So have it like when we move it around. Oops. Oh, I've ruined it all. Oop, down here. So when we do that growing and shrinking, that's where that auto is coming into play. It's basically like display flex. If you know anything about CSS when it comes to displaying flex or not, or static, that's what that is. Okay, so inside of that, we are going to give an H1. We're going to give it a fun class of, we're going to say text dark. Using things like text dark, text light are Bootstrap words that Bootstrap reads and says, hey, I know what you mean. I got that in my back pocket. Text dark, oops, that's not right. Oops. Text dark, we're going to give it a font weight of bold. So this is where we're not using our custom CSS. We're using Bootstrap's own CSS to work with Bootstrap. And then giving it a margin bottom of bold, excellent. And then that's where we can say, hey, hello. No, it's not there. There, and save that. We should probably be watching the right thing. So there we go. We've got hey, hello. That's popping up. That's great. We're going to add a p tag. And inside that p tag, I'm going to lorem 15 that and save it. And then below that, we are going to add yet another button, which I will again copy and paste. I'll pop it right into the chat here. And I'll paste it down here. All right, so we've got the information, the words at least, that we have here. Now we're going to add our image. And we want it to be beside the blurb. So I chose the image of the woods because we're doing a theme of planets and earth and stuff like that. So below, we've got the A tag. Below this div, so that would be below this div right here, inside the row category, we are going to add another dot call dash LG dash 8 with an image and W-100. And there we go. So when we save that, nothing will happen because our image source isn't sourced yet. But we will go img slash, and then we're just going to go with woods. So when we look at it and when we expand it, it does go right beside it, which is fantastic. All right, so our class of W100, we are going to add a few more things, which are Bootstrap words. So we're using Bootstrap Talk, Bootstrap CSS again. So I want to add a border to it. I want the border to be the color of that info, which makes it really easy for me. I want it, you know what? I want it to be rounded, because why not? I don't know if I just said rounded properly, or UND. Yep, okay. And I want it to float right, just to make sure that it stays over there. I am unsure as why this is not working. We're missing a letter. Okay, so when I typed out this div class right here, I put a dash in between the my4 and the LG auto. That shouldn't be there. As you can see the difference that made, if I control Z and save that again, I was wondering where this padding went. Oh, sorry, the margin went. And it was because I had put a dash instead of a space. Sometimes that's the whole problem. Just using a dash instead of a space could be a huge difference for your Bootstrap. All right, now we're going to finish up today's class with putting in this cute little end screen, our little footer here. Obviously, I've just used lorem ipsum. We've had a logo in. The most important thing that we're going to play with today is we're going to add in these little icons. Each of these icons you can make so they are clickable and send you to that website. So let's jump back here and scroll down. All right. So we're going to create a footer and it's going to center everything like that beautiful, like we saw on the finished one. And we're going to give our container. So the container that we build is going to have a class of BG dark, so background dark. We have used background light earlier on, but we're going to use background dark this time. This is going to be a long one. So stick with me. Your website became weird. Bootstrap does tend to do that. Do you want to show us?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay, I'll stop sharing for a second. Excuse me, liquid breaks.
Can you see it?
What?
It went inside this. I don't know.
All right, let's take a look at your code. Okay. Because I think we're probably inside of a div. All right, we got our 2-column selection there.
I think it's somewhere out here.
Yeah.
Maybe that's
Okay,
because
don't go
of
any
the fixed
further.
background.
Fixed background. Yeah, don't go any further up. We're in the right spot. Okay, we got our navbar sticky. We got our fixed background. Row, column, text center, H1, H3, A tags. Our divs are fixed and wrapped. All right, let's scroll a little further. All right, so what you're missing, oh, keep scrolling. Yeah, okay, so what you're missing is, see where it says spacer navbar second? If you scroll up to the top of that right there, where we have spacer navbar first, copy and paste that div class navbar bg info. Nope, just the sticky top. Just that top line right there. Perfect. And then place that in that spacer navbar second section and hit save and check your website. I'm hoping that fixed it.
No, it's almost the same, I'll say.
Oh, really? Oh no, let's see. Try refreshing this page itself. Why is it doing that?
I don't know, like this is being fixed.
Yeah,
This
it's
moving.
fixed. Weird. All right, let's go back to your code. Back to the code. Perfect. All right. Tater my row pie. Scroll down. Page 1. There is no reason that your, let's take a look at your website again, and we'll Control Shift C on the website. And we'll open up that info panel. Yeah, so Control Shift C on this.
Control Shift C.
Cool. Not what I expected to see. Go to your, let me see here. There's nothing. That is so bizarre. I think what we'll do is close all of your website windows and then reopen your code with the live server.
Yeah, I'm doing the same. Okay.
Why is it doing that?
There is problem with fixed class, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not sure why that is happening. Because your code is the same as mine. Let's go back to that code one more time and see if we can't figure that out, because that's bizarre.
Can you see it now? Is
Yep.
this section there in your code?
Fixed wrap, fixed. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Oh, okay, hold on. Let's see here. Oh, okay, here's the problem. You are inside of your navbar BG info sticky top div. So if you go to that bottom div, the one that's below that one you're selected on right now.
This one?
This guy, the very last one.
This
nope,
one?
Nope, don't scroll. So just go down one div. So on line 182.
Yeah.
Control, get rid of it, like copy it, like Control X. And now scroll up. And paste it at the end of line 165. All right, now save.
Oh yeah, it's changed now.
Yay. Okay, so sometimes being inside of a div is a serious problem. You can go down the div hole that just continues to go.
Now I'm wondering where this picture came from.
Oh, okay. So if we go to our style.css.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Yeah, so it's automatically built into the thing there.
It has the background.
So if you scroll down, it should be our fixed
here it
image.
is.
That's where it is right there. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. I will share my screen again.
Stuff's here. Okay. You can go ahead.
Perfect. I'm glad we caught that. That was tricky. Awesome. Okay. So we have our start footer section. So as I mentioned before, this is going to be a long one to type out, but it will be worth it. So we are going to start off with .container fluid -fluid. And then inside of that, so every time I use to the name of the omnoms, I call them the omnoms because I always forget their names. With an omnom, so I use that inside of .row .text -light .text -center .py, so padding top and bottom -4 here's the big one. This is where we're using both Bootstrap / inline styling with CSS, which is justify content center -content -center. And I'll copy and paste that into the chat for you guys. If I find my chat again. Perfect. So we end up with 2 divs and 2 things that have rows and classes. Now we're going to add some space for the content. And we're going to add, since we already added a row, now we're going to add a column. So call .sm10. So this is where we're telling it at certain smallness, show a different way. sm10 dash call md dash 8. I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be different. That we might have to change that. I'm pretty sure there's supposed to be a dot. I think this is a dot, but we're going to give it a go. 8 dot call dash lg dash 6 inside the image. Oh, that didn't work at all. It's all supposed to be 1. And let me just make sure that that's, nope, that's supposed to be together. Okay. All right. Okay, so the image that we are going to put in here is going to be our img / I'm going to use logo mine white, because if you are a smart person who does images, you will make sure that you have a dark version and a light version of your logo for everything. Because sometimes somebody wants to put their logo on a dark background or a blue background, and your logo is blue, and it's impossible without putting an ugly white box around it. So if I save that, we have the gigantic logo. So we are going to give some classes here. So we're going to look at this image. I'm going to format this because it was a little messy. The image is going to get a class. The class I'm going to call it is just going to be We Earth, because that's the name of the title that I have for my logo. Obviously, when you're making those sorts of things, we have to make sure that I will show you why that did that. We have We Earth photo, We Earth information already done here, but it's not going to be fully finished until all of this information gets put down. Okay. So we've got our alt text. And then inside here, so before the end of the column, we are going to add a p tag. And we're just going to add some lorem in there. Do 15 words of lorem. And we're going to add the class of BG dark to our container fluid. So up here, this is where the difference between a container and container fluid comes into play. A container is like this size with no space on the end. So it would have an end at the beginning. Container fluid continues to go off into infinity. And we're going to say BG dash dark. When we save that, there we go. That's a lot better. We've got some information there. We can read it now. We know that the stuff that we're writing is showing up. Awesome. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we are going to add our socials into this. So we're going to create an unordered list, and we're going to list the 4 items that we want to put in here under the p tag. So still within this column, under this p tag right here. So we are going to add unordered list dot social dot pt dash 3. Inside of that, we're going to add our list items. So li list item times, this is where we get to like multiply things, times 4 inside of an a tag. There we go. So this is where we get, we have an unordered list now, just like we've used unordered lists all throughout in the cards, in the carousel, all of those had unordered lists in them. I believe even the nav bar had an unordered list. And we are going to add our socials. So the way to get to the socials, I have pre-opened some of them. So this is how we get, I've just opened Twitter for now. I'll copy and paste the information into the chat. So this is for Twitter. It gives us a small heading, a smaller heading, inline text, example inline text. So it shows us how to use it. We have the option to download the SVG, which we can copy and paste directly into the thing. I'll show you the difference between copying the SVG project code. I just want to make sure I put it in the right spot. Oh, these are, we have to change our href. Alt. This is, oops. Oh no, I changed, I did it differently. No. Okay. Ignore what we wrote here. Ignore it all. We're going to change a whole bunch of stuff. There's not going to be an A tag. Our list items are going to look like this. So I'm going to get rid of these list items right here because we still have our unordered list. And this is what we're looking for. So it's not an A tag, sorry, it was an I tag. And because I want 4 of those, I'm just going to put 4 in there. And then for each one, you can change this word right here to Facebook, Instagram, right, so if we scroll down, we have our fancy little icons. I am very concerned as to why the okay. What we're missing, the reason why our logo isn't showing up correctly is because this SM10 is missing a call. And this call should not be a call. Go away. This, if we alt click and we find the other call that we wrote down here, that should be a div tag. There we go. Okay, so what I did there was when we typed out this line of code here, if you look at it in the thing, I didn't put the dot in the right spot, basically. So it thought that I wanted a class of column as opposed to a div and then a class of call small medium. So that is that. That is it. That's the end of the thing. Do we have any questions? I know we lost like most of the group, but we are recording, so they'll be able to catch up. I know a lot of people have courses in the midst of this. But that is our website. So we managed to build an entire website in less than 2 hours. Sometimes there are some things that if you're building a website, not everything is for everyone, like this top bar information up here. If I click that, see, it shows me to a way to make a cut. Sure, what's up, Vivek?
I haven't finished the code yet. Could you please go back to your VS Code again? Thanks. Just let me copy this and then.
Oh yeah, no problem. So
you can copy the
I think I
course
can
inside the URL.
I think I can copy and paste this whole section of everything into the chat.
Yeah.
Yes. I think it fits. It does fit. There you go.
Oh, you did everything.
That's so. There was a few little mix-ups there. So my mix-up was definitely making that div class as by accident into a call. If we look at our styling here for our social, we can see.
Now it's pretty much same like yours.
Yes, awesome. That's what I like to hear. And feel free to play with anything that has a number on it. So 16, a 3, 1.5, 10, anything that has a number on it, including in like these sections like this, feel free to change the numbers and see what happens to your website and see how those changes can actually affect the website just by, adding a little bit more or a little bit less margin or a little bit more or a little bit less padding. It's really going to make the difference when it comes to making your Bootstrap website stand out and not look so bootstrappy. So we're using Bootstrap capabilities, but we're also adding our own custom CSS, and we're using inline styling. We're using Bootstrap itself for the styling. But you can make it just with simple changes like these margins that we added in here, or this padding that we added in here. We can make it look different than everyone else's Bootstrap. So awesome. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh.
The last thing that I'm going to show you is Bootswatch, which is a very, very cool thing that you can add on to your Bootstrap. I already had it open. Oh, I had it open over here. Okay, that's why. All right, so free themes for Bootstrap. So you can actually theme your Bootstrap without having to do much work. They are very easy to install. They're very customizable. They keep them tuned up for every version of Bootstrap. If you're still using version 2 or 3 of Bootstrap, a lot of your stuff is probably broken on your website. But they have a whole bunch of different things that you can download and use, and basically copy and paste directly into your Bootstrap min. So if we look at our Bootstrap files and okay, here we go. So we have our CSS right here, a normal CSS. We've got some JS in there. Oh, I don't have the other CSS anymore. Okay, normally I would also have a Bootstrap CSS in here, but because we're basically stealing it directly from, we're going directly from the Bootstrap server. We don't have to worry about having a bootstrap.min document, but if you want to see what that looks like, it is utter madness. I want to go, oh, they don't have my favorite one anymore. They just have a really cool sketch. This one right here, sketchy. So this gives you the ability to build a nav bar and all your stuff out to look completely customized and really cool. You can download each of these buttons. You copy and paste, and it'll give you the same Bootstrap information that that Bootstrap gives you. And all that you need to do is download it. So you can open in JS Fiddle. You can steal the bootstrap min.css. You can get the bootstrap CSS. If you look at those files, there's a big difference between the two. The min.css, if we look at that, see where it opens. Okay, it's opening an atom. I also have atom on here. Whoop. This is the min. So bootstrap min. This is all of the CSS possibilities you could possibly want to and hope to use. If you go to the bootstrap .css file and you open that, which they're opening an atom for some reason. Atom's also a really good IDE. This is where you actually can look at the Bootstrap line by line and make changes to things. It's really fun. You can use these on I think with C#. I think that's what I used it in. And like, it's really cool. So you can make a whole bunch of different changes to stuff and it looks really awesome. But that's a really cool website to be able to have in your back pocket. If you need to make something look really fun, really quickly, you can download that information. Additional sources. If you're having trouble with Bootstrap and you cannot find the documentation in Bootstrap, which is very small, there is Bootstrap to go to. There's W3 Schools, which I suggest for anybody who's doing coding to check out W3 Schools. It's very helpful, especially if you're trying to do things like fixed image and work with images. It gives you a lot of help. And then of course, YouTube, because YouTube is the source of all knowledge. So I'd like to say thank you. I hope you enjoyed our session today. And if you want to find out more things that are happening, including all the cool stuff that's going on in the makerspace, feel free to follow us on social media. Thanks so much. Awesome. Have an amazing night and get some dinner. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask them. But for now, we can stop the share and we will stop the recording.